we now have 3 headphone models that take all these different ear pads, which we also make here for these 3 headphones.
Looks like more when you have them all laid out than it seems, but yeah.
Well, here's the options. So we have on our Diana line and now the new Joel line, we have, they come with stock, whatever the ear pad is that's specified for it. That comes with a particular ear pad for each of the model. And in fact, they're different for each one. The Diana DZ comes with what they call hybrid, which has a softer face to it, an ultra suede face, and it's leather on the inside and out. And the Diana MR coming down 1 notch is all leather. And then Joel is all ultra suede. So we kind of tuned the headphones with these ear pads to what we consider to be a middle ground or stock sound. And then, of course, you can go and purchase different ear pads to change the sound one way or the other from stock, which is very cool.
Yep, they're all interchangeable.
Yeah.
It's also great because if you already own a set of headphones, you can use the pads that are on your headphones too.
Yeah, right. Any of these new ear pads work with any of the old Diana models and offer pretty similar results too across the board, which we'll get into right now. So let's talk about that, like the leather. First of all, let's talk about the materials. Since we're dealing with basically two primary materials here. We're dealing with a lambskin, which is kind of like a leather, very thin, soft, supple leather, right? And ultra suede, which is a man-made material, which is kind of fuzzy and soft and, absorptive in terms of music.
It seems like most claim that the ultra suede is more comfortable. That seem to be most people's preferences.
I know I do.
I personally prefer the lambskin.
Yeah.
I really like it, but
I don't mind either one, really.
Yeah, it seemed like, at least in New York, when everybody was trying it, most people preferred it, but not everybody. I'd say it was like 80% preferred.
I think it's an initial thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those first impressions. When you start out with an ultra suede, you're like, wow, this is soft and nice. And then, but then you obviously, once you get used to it, all these ear pads are soft and nice. That's what we're getting at. They're all very plush, so we not only, the deal is with the ear pads, we build them in-house here. And they're not only foam like most ear pads, but we also add a pillow top layer to it, which softens the touch to your face and the side of your head, which is great. And they all have that. They all have the same built-in features of being soft. But yeah, the ultra suede's like fuzzy soft. So it's kind of,
Well, and that's, aside from sonically, the comfort is the thing. And if you sonically want the sound of the leather, but you want the comfort of the suede, then you can get the hybrid. So,
yeah, which is best of both worlds. And we'll talk about that because that has to do with sound. So let's talk about the materials. And basically there's 2 materials. Then we have the leather and we have the ultra suede. And each one has different acoustic properties. And that obviously will set up the overall sound characteristics that your brain interprets as part of the sound stage and the imaging and the music and so on. So it's no different than, having a room with no furniture in it and no people and everything's just hard walls and you know what it sounds like when you clap your hands. It's just reflective as all hell. It just echoes like crazy, which is kind of more reflective, which is what you get out of like a leather material. A little more. It still absorbs in certain frequencies, but it's more or less lets the sound bounce around inside the ear pad. And then once you take a room and you put nice soft furniture in there, put a carpet down, right? Put draperies up. Right. Have 20 people in the room. All of a sudden,
if it's a bedroom, a bed, giant
mattress. All these things absorb sound, keep sound from bouncing around.
Ask a sound guy in a venue how he's got to retune after it's filled.
Yeah, right.
It's a huge difference. Yeah, and that's just people.
Yeah, people, you don't think about how our bodies absorb.
It's massive.
You don't think about it because most of the time you're in furnished rooms and stuff. But like you go like to an open house or something and there's no furniture and then everything's just echoey and loud. And
so many people will come to me and be like during a sound check, "Why is it so loud?" I'm like, "Because there's no one in here."
Yeah,
and I gotta be 10 dB up because they're gonna absorb all of it.
Yeah.
So. And that's always a classic too. Like, but we get into now. We could go on and on about this one in terms of show setups and stuff like that. When we used to do speaker shows, the first thing you do is walk in a room and give a few claps and just see where the problems are.
Well,
And try
it's
to
always
solve
the
it.
same problem in a hotel. There's a giant wall of glass, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
We gotta close. Everybody's like, "Why don't you have the windows open so we can see the view?" It's like
'Cause it sounds like
it's
crap.
it's a glass wall.
Yeah, and these are the things we address in making these ear pads. I mean, that's the whole idea is we're setting up a near perfect acoustic space with a speaker, to your head, and so but that's the deal is that the two materials do sound different, particularly in the upper frequencies, probably above the mid range into the treble, and it softens it a bit. So let's see if we could talk about it.
That is universal too across all headphones, not just ours.
Well,
that's just how solid leather works versus the suede or a type of fabric material. It impacts our headphones even more though, and it's because of how much space is in there. I mean, there's a lot of material in there, especially with the suede absorbing a lot of that high frequency energy. So it actually makes a pretty dramatic difference on our headphones.
Yeah, it's quite noticeable. And, you won't see it as much in frequency response measurements on the higher freaks because it's difficult to understand the change. You'll see a change, say, from 10 kilohertz up, but relative to what? Like, you don't really know what, you got to know what one sounds like in order to understand what the second, you got to understand, there's no relationship to the lower frequencies, so without really hearing it. So really, showing frequency response measurements on it shows you change, but it's difficult to perceive until you hear it. And then you understand how the softer materials just kind of absorb more of the higher frequencies.
Especially on higher end equipment, it's an immediate difference to the point where all three of these headphones sound like a different set of headphones.
Yeah, which is cool because depending on the gear you're using or depending on your tastes, and we found that people have dramatic differences in tastes.
I mean, it's pretty much the way I think about it is it's essentially changes the sound the way the feel changes,
True.
They feel softer on the ultra suede and they sound softer.
Yeah, subjectively, they're both subjective things. The material, the softer the material, the more it absorbs, and the softer the sound would become. That's bounced. It doesn't reflect as much, And of course, there's always with everything. People need to understand that there's trade-offs. Usually, when you go toward one direction with something in the sound, you're either when you add somewhere, you're usually taking away from somewhere else, and vice versa. Almost everything's a trade-off when it comes to audio. So you usually need to understand that but again, if you're looking for an overall balance or signature to the sound, it's a great way to adjust from stock.
Yeah, like live orchestral DSD recordings tend to be a bit sharp because of where the microphones are normally placed. They really should leave an empty seat in the audience and place it there. So yeah, they tend to be a bit bright, a bit harsh.
There's a lot of energy there.
Yeah,
there's a ton of energy there.
So the suede actually makes it seem like there's people in the room and it's full and it's the room correction is.
Yeah, the other thing is pianos.
Yeah, pianos.
Yeah, I've heard close mic'd pianos. Yeah. It's like, you ever put your head inside a piano?
They could be brutal. Yeah, they could be brutal.
Yeah.
Or even any cymbals.
Well, sure.
Brutal.
Yeah. So the suede brings out realism in that part of it because it's adding something that was missed during recording.
Yeah.
So.
And then it softens it a bit.
Yeah.
Smoothens it out.
And then with each option, then you could add bass porting, right?
Yeah. That's the second thing you change. So now we understand that the reflective nature of the leather versus the absorptive nature of the suede, and you can go either way with that. And of course, the slight softness differences. The suede's a little softer than the leather, but they're both very soft materials, right? So now we talk about bass porting, which is something I'm not sure who started the thing, but I know we sure as hell went gung ho with it on our ear pads, and you really. In a dynamic drivers, dynamic style headphones can't do that. They can't bass port. When you break seal on a dynamic driver, you almost always just completely lose all bass, and it just disappears. So you're not going to help it there. Yeah. The cool thing about most planar drivers, and ours in particular, is that the way they respond to giving them a little more breathing room gives them more freedom of motion, and they will actually, given enough power, they will push more air. So given that kind of, let's call it a parlor trick when it comes to planar drivers, like with what we build, particularly what we build, and the fact that our drivers can have that extra excursion, they're built to do that, to do really low frequencies, like down in the organ music range, no problem, without bottoming out or distorting. The reality of it is we can get away with porting the pads to allow them to move more freely.
Yeah,
where do we go?
Again, like the suede versus the leather, it turns it into a new headphone. It's dramatic. This isn't a little thing. This isn't like, oh, it's a slight nudge to the bass or something like that. Like, it is really impressive though that it's not boomy. Like, because on the 1266, if you port it too much,
right,
it's just yeah.
Well,
this is like it's controlled. You're not really sacrificing resolution in the bass.
Well, that's what helps the fact that our ported ear pads are engineered to do that for our drivers.
Yeah, so we did.
We could have given them more porting, but yeah, you went into exactly that.
Well, we did that actually.
Right.
We 3D printed a whole bunch of different designs.
Oh yeah,
and then tried them all.
Did. Yeah.
And then everybody picked one.
Right.
And then we all picked the same one. It's like, yeah, right here.
Yeah. We found average internally, and because we know that we also know the limitations of our headphones. You know, we always beat the crap out of them in house. I mean, the first thing you do with a new headphone is turn up the volume to see what it'll do.
That's right.
let's see what this thing can do.
So we have heard it too much.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, some people might like that, but
No.
I can't imagine it. I mean, it'd have to be a very specific recording to tolerate that.
Yeah. If it's stuff and it's like, oh, this is wrong now, it's all. Ugh.
And we have our go-to tracks for that.
Yeah.
We each do. We each have our own tracks, and each different tracks that we go to. Say, all right, let's see. And some tracks, are already so bass heavy that when you add too much bass, it just goes the wrong way completely. So we do draw a very fine line in this. It's a pretty specific science trying to find the exact porting for our driver. But in the end, it turns out to be a really cool, like you said, a very obvious change.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I've not heard someone go, oh, I got the new pads and I didn't really hear a difference.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Right.
It's
true.
I've heard surprise of the differences. I've heard too much of something, but I've never heard I didn't hear a change. So.
And the added benefit too that we should mention with porting the bass ported pads is that it does tend to increase the spatial information a little bit more. Like it makes the sound more open than the closed, and it kind of makes sense in some respects when you consider a closed back headphone versus open back. It's just kind of like giving the diaphragm a little more freedom of motion.
Yeah. Bass porting is my go-to for movies, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like the immersion just off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And if you like soundstage, it will give you the appreciation of a wider space. So it's a cool. It's just. We should probably cover the one more thing about our pads too, is the fact that if someone's not familiar with them, they're magnetic.
It's easy to change.
They're extremely easy. There's no adhesives or any of that stuff. So the beauty of having magnetic ear pads is they're extremely easy to change out, and literally it's 10-15 seconds for both sides. And once you get good at it, it's just like you can go to the other side and you're done. And you could change the ear pads just for certain genres or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any Diana or Joel owner, I honestly think you're missing out on a part of the experience.
If you don't
before working here, I always had sets of pads on my desk and was swapping. Mm-hmm. Sometimes per track, it seems like it'd be an annoying thing to do, but it's so fast that really it's not a big deal at all.
And the thing we've been seeing more recently, because someone did it and posted a picture, is people get different colors and put them on, like tan on their black headphone with that good old pop.
They'll customize their headphone.
And everybody's like, I like that. It's like, oh, cool.
Well, some people tell us they do it just so they know the difference between the pads. They don't have to figure it out. They just know which color is what,
Right.
Yeah.
So that's cool too. But
that would make sense.
Yeah, but it does make sense. And so people are doing that. We got people putting tan on black and stuff like that.
Yeah, my desk is pretty dark.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Yeah. Well, that's true. It'll help you to find the damn things too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always losing my Apple remote, so I wish they would make that something other than silver.
Yeah.
The suede and the leather, you can pick colors. The hybrid's all black, but you do whatever you want.
Yeah. So.
Zeos has the mix match set too.
Oh yeah. He's always showing
that's not an option. But.
He's got the tan suede.
Yeah.
This is why we do what we do.
Lots of options.
Well, the beauty of it is, you start with stock, and and then you start there, so you have a foundation for what the headphone's capable of, and how it sounds with your existing gear, and then you have a couple options from there. You change up the gear if you want to change the sound one way or the other, or you try different ear pads to go in a different direction. So It's cool to have multiple options. It just makes for a better personal experience for everybody.
And it does seem like most people know what they want. They know, like, I prefer it a little smoother, in the top end.
Some
or
have been
something.
through this.
So they're like, they already know that's what they want to go with. But
yeah, there were some people who said with other headphones, they said, I already know I like the suede, or I already know I like leather. I don't.
right.
And I get that, but
Yeah.
you gotta kind of watch that because on different headphones,
Well,
you got a
might
different
not, but-
tonal balance.
Yeah.
Well, our headphones tend to draw out the sound from your equipment, too.
Right.
And not all headphones really do that to a high level.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like you might find that your equipment's a bit brighter than you were expecting.
Right.
And being able to just swap into a set of suede pads might be all the difference.
Yep.
So long experience, I think, at least in some of my communications, has been a detriment to some people I've talked to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you do have to be careful with that.
Yeah. True.
Well, or the other thing we ran into is some softer tube amps, and then you add suede to it, and then it might become
Too soft.
too soft,
Yeah.
right?
If you're already soft.
Right.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on your taste, and that's the beauty of it, is starting with a middle ground on each model. The way we set it up stock with the cable, the sound of the whole thing's a package. The cable, the ear pads, and the drivers, and the internal design. It's all an acoustic package that we set up that we feel is middle ground for that model. So that's why we always recommend you start with what stock is, and then go from there if you want to go one or the other with it. Change up pads, and you can always get aftermarket cables, and we have upgrade cables. There's obviously tons of equipment out there nowadays, so there's a lot of directions to go, but we always recommend starting with what we consider to be the middle ground stock configuration, and go from there.
And over time, it works too. I was using a Diana 5 for quite a while, and man, was it nice with the suede-based ported pads.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, how old's the 5?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
at least.
So you could get practically a new set of headphones
True.
just by getting a set of pads.
Yeah, when the 5 first came out, it was a lot of resolution, and and a lot of people thought it was a little brighter sounding, and it probably was on a lot of the gear that was out there 5-6 years ago. The gear's gotten better too. The lower cost gear too, in particular.
Yeah.
It's smoother now.
There's a lot more warmer options too.
Yeah, right. So but back then there wasn't as many. But yeah, now if you had a Phi and you still were running lower cost gear, you're right. You could just pop a pair of Ultra Suede pads on there and.
Well, and these pads didn't
Smoother.
exist then either.
Right. True. Yeah, you didn't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, the Phi came with an early generation pad, nowhere near as nice and
Right.
comfortable as these current gens.
Yeah, the
Those-
skinny fenestrated pads.
very, very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, they were quite different. Yeah, these are way better, way more comfortable, and they do fit. Everything's backwards compatible, so they fit the older models. So, but if anyone has any questions on any of this, call us, email us, click on chat on our website, and chat with us. We can answer them. Toot sweet. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care of yourselves.